Can you feel it? Can you feel it? I get goosebumps every time I hear that countdown go off because I know it's time for another episode of the Make Money and Have Fun show.
My motto in life is make money and have fun. I'm on a mission to show everyone how to make money and have fun. I'm all about making money and having fun.
All right, you know what that music means. That means it's time to jump into it today. So this month, super ambitious month, super busy month, we are going through Author Month. And if you're loving Author Month so far, give us some thumbs up, give us some hearts. Let us know down in the comments that you're here, you're ready to rock, and you are ready to have an awesome time because we're out here making money and having fun every single day this month. And man, I've had some incredible authors on so far this month already. Yesterday, we talked to Emilio, who's running the Co-Author Network. So if you want to write the easiest book that you will ever write, reach out to Emilio. But today, I'm even more excited to be bringing on Charity Hyams to the show today. She is a super cool guest who's written an awesome book, and she is going to tell us all about it. So let's put our hands together for Miss Charity Hyams. What's going on, Charity?
Everything's going on this month, but
that's what you were saying before the show started. You said you were ultra busy. What do you got going on?
Well, I finished my second book
Nice.
in December, and I've been working on a new coaching program. I have a coaching program that goes with my first book, and so I've been working on the second coaching program, which is about widows and dating, which is interesting and fun all together.
Nice. That's awesome.
So yeah, there's all sorts of stuff moving in the pot. Brewing in the pot.
You got two books out now. And for those of you that don't know, I've actually written two books as well. So I wrote my first one when I was 21 years old. And by the way, this book is horrible, but I wrote it. It's out there. Right? We all have that experience where we look back and we're like, eesh, did I really put that video out there? Did I really write this book? What am I doing? And then I wrote my second book. It's much better. It's called The Thought Bible. It's just really a collection of blog posts that I wrote for about 4 or 5 years that I jammed them all together in between two covers, and I called it a book. And
you wrote it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it was just a lot of fun doing that. But Charity, tell us about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And, just give us your little background story.
Well, in May of 2018, my husband of 13 years was fixing the family van, and the jack slipped, and he died that day while I tried to lift the jack back up. And at that time, I was 36, and I had a 1, 3, and 5-year-old. And so from that point, right after he died, I went to the hospital, and I was talking to his deceased body, and I said, don't worry, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to live on for the kids. I will figure it out. Everything's going to be okay. And when I left the hospital, I realized I had to figure out how to live on for myself, that it wasn't going to be enough to just live on for my children. And so that's where my first book came from, because in my first year, I read everything I could get my hands on about grief, solo parenting, any spirituality, any topic that I thought could help me rebuild my life. And the second year, I decided to write it all in a book for any other widows with young children that needed help finding their way. And then my second book, The Widow's Guide to Dating, was literally my journey after that, where I started dating again and realized how many things I knew were holding me back personally from becoming my best self and being able to put out there what I wanted and needed in a relationship. And so then I wrote all of that down, and here we are.
It's really an inspirational story. I remember you mentioned this when we did our little show reel of Authors Month and that kind of stuff. And really, it's amazing that you were able to take this moment of just sheer trauma and turn it into a story that you can share with other people. What kind of response have you gotten from other widows because of this book that you put out into the world? How's that been going?
Well, it just gives widows a guidebook to feel heard and seen and not alone and not crazy, because a lot of the symptoms of grief are things that would make you feel crazy. And so it's an encouragement, number one. And it's also something to inspire them to realize that they still are alive.
Amazing. It brings me back to my favorite book of all time is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And I'm sure you might have read it yourself.
Oh.
And one of the recurring themes in that book is that our greatest success typically always comes one step after our greatest setback. And so you basically have become that beacon of hope for other widows out there and, other people out there who are facing, severe setbacks, and just looking at it from a perspective of how can I continue on from here? How can I grow? How can I, continue doing, whatever it is I'm meant to do at this point? And, I just gotta, give you kudos for that, because it's such a difficult thing to do that I couldn't even fathom myself. But the fact that you've done it is you've kind of just, made yourself this beacon of hope to everybody else. I guess, what kind of impact has it given to you to kind of step out of that and write both of these books and inspire all of these people now?
Well, it's really interesting. As you said, if you had told me 4 years ago, like if my future self had gone, you're going to be working exclusively with widows and rebuilding their lives, I'd be like, what are you talking about? I'm a stay-at-home mom. And one of the things that happens with women and men in general is when we are in the life we're living, a lot of times we become the roles that we are. We become the stay-at-home mom. We become the wife. And we might lose our individuality and sense of who we are as a person. And this journey brought me back to who I am as a person without labeling myself as a mother or a wife. And then it helps me to develop other people. It helps me to inspire other people to find themselves and realize that, yes, I went through this horrible thing. I'm still on this grief journey. I'm going to bring my loved one with me, but I'm going to be myself, and I'm going to realize that I am worth living for and I'm worth living on. And it's just, you're right. Helping others and reaching out to others is going to be the most fulfilling thing that you can do, is using your own experience and being there for others and leading others into a better place.
Absolutely. It's one of the reasons why I do this show. For me, I've always felt compelled my whole life that everything that I learned, I want to share it with the world. I want to give it all away. That's why I wrote my first book. That's why I wrote my second book. That's why I have my third book coming out in a few months. That's why I do this show. That's why I created a YouTube channel and just doing everything that I can to basically give back everything that I've absorbed, everything that I've, taken in. I want to give that back to the world. And it's amazing. Like I said, I can't, say it enough. Your story is just an inspiration to so many people. But let's roll it back, dial it back a second here. And I want to talk to all of the people out there that are watching who are the aspiring author, the person who's in that place where they want to write a book, but they never have before. And we've had, I asked this question all month to all of our authors, and a lot of them talk about ghostwriting and publishing versus self-publishing and those sorts of things. I imagine that your story is a little bit different, but what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's in that space where they want to write a book, but they never have yet?
Well, the first thing I would say is, especially, both of my books come from the heart. And it sounds like yours did too. And starting in the place where if you have a message to give the world, I think one of the biggest hurdles that people face is that message good enough? And I would say always yes, because if spirit or whatever you want to call the greater good, the greater being, nature, whatever you subscribe to, if that is giving you the nudge to pass something on, then that is going to be a gift to someone else. And it's going to be a gift to you to give it. So I think that's where you start is talking your self-doubt talk down enough to be like, okay, I do have something to write. And then realizing that the start of it is always putting your words to paper or typing, nowadays, but just taking that first step.
Yeah, I love that. That's really, I read a book when I was in my writing phase for my first book that I was writing that said, you always write for the same person, and that's yourself. And so, like you said, when you figure out what it is you want to share and you write it from the heart, you almost develop, I feel like, a sense of obligation at that point or responsibility to give this to somebody. When you kind of realize that, yes, I have a story, yes, I have something coming from my heart, my message is always good enough, which was, a huge thing that you said in there. I even have the quote right here that I wrote down for us, that you at that point, I believe, step into a role of having the responsibility of giving that to the world, of sharing that with the world at that point. What about the post-writing process? So this is where I think a lot of people get in their own way, where they're like, do I publish it? Do I self-publish it? Do I, hand it out to a couple of friends? Do I try to bind it myself? Do I get a printing press in my basement? Like, what do I do there? Right? People always, they put up more obstacles than are typically there for themselves, at least is what I find. Mm-hmm. But what would you say about that end of it? Is it as hard or as scary as people think, or just kind of what's your opinion on that end?
Excuse me, Arnold. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. I've done it. I've now done both. I've self-published and I've been picked up. But I think really it isn't that scary once if you realize how easy self-publishing is. It's ridiculously easy. I mean, I think my biggest thing about after you write a book that I would suggest is getting a good editor, because an editor can make the difference between, it brings in another person to look at your work and realize what you might have written that you understand in your head, because you're the writer, and what someone else might not understand when you write it. But the self-publishing part is extremely easy. It's finding someone to put it into KDP format and slapping it on Amazon. Yeah. But I mean, I think the biggest step people miss sometimes is the editor.
I totally agree. I think, doing my most recent book, which is going to be out in a few months, I brought in a whole team, right? I had the ghostwriter, I had the editor, I had all these different people, working alongside each other. And it really gave me a different perspective, because I remember writing my first book, right? My first book, I wrote every single word myself, right? It was just paper on pen, Microsoft Word, type. And it took me, a year and a half to write the book. It was just an arduous and tedious process. And I think that one of the things that I missed out on was the storytelling element to the book, and looking at it from the reader's perspective. When I brought on a ghostwriter, she was able to handle all of the actual writing and putting the words on paper. And I often came into the phone call with the perspective of, where's the reader going here, right? What kind of map, what kind of, journey are we taking them on? Where do we want them to start? Where do we want them to land? And how do we want them to get there? Became that piece. So I think, like you said, just bringing in that extra set of eyes really changes the game at that point. And by the way, Ken MacArthur's here. He just wanted to say hey. So, hey, Ken, thanks for stopping by. And if anybody else is here, write your comments out. We can bring them right on screen. If you have any questions for us, ask your questions live. We can bring them right on screen. We'll answer your questions for you. But on that note, Charity, we got to talk about this coaching program that you're building out here for widows now, because you realized that you got a little one there.
Yeah, I do.
He's hanging out with us. Look at that.
You want to say hi?
This is going to be the first guest under 8.
Say hi. Hi. Okay, go find Papa, please.
He's going to be famous one day.
He probably will be. I'm just hoping it's for the right reasons.
Exactly.
Go find Papa, please.
So here's the deal. So let's chat about your
He will make macaroni and cheese go now.
As we move along here. So you realized that it wasn't enough to inspire people just through a book. You wanted to also coach them along their way as well. So how's that journey been for you? Tell us about that.
Well, that is like literally it's taking everything I know and being able to also be the person behind it to be like, I have your hand. I'll hold your hand while you do this. And that's amazing. I mean, honestly, out of everything, developing, one of the things I talk about in my first book is developing a tribe. And developing a widow tribe is one of the best gifts that you can give yourself, because you know that their advice isn't crap. Like, that they've been there, they've done it, they bought the t-shirt, and we all have gone through the same grief and solo parenting and all of that, all of the stuff that just is really hard. And so that is the best gift that you can give yourself.
Yeah, you can't fake that. That's for sure.
No.
That's definitely got to be quite the tribe to have put together there at that point. So you got the 2 books coming out, you got the coaching program, you got the tribe, you got all that stuff. So what's next for you now, Charity? What's the next thing that it's going to be happening in your world?
Well, I'm just finishing up that the second coaching program, which is going to be really interesting because it's about dating. And I mean, it takes you from the steps of, how to develop a Tinder profile to what you need to expect of yourself and what you need to expect of everyone else. Please go.
So let's kind of wrap it up here a little bit. So what ways would you, or what message would you give to any of the listeners who are out there? Maybe they're a widow, or maybe they're just looking to write a book and looking to share their message. What would you say to any of those people?
One, just don't give up. Know that you're human. Know that things are going to happen, like your 4-year-old's going to show up in your interview. But, make sure that you just keep doing what you are born to do, what you've been given. Just keep moving forward with that. And it might be slow at sometimes. It might be moment by moment, especially in grief and with everything that's going on. And even writing a book, even if you haven't been through grief, sometimes it's literally putting one foot in front of the other, putting one word after the other in that case, and just continuing that motion. Things that are in motion stay in motion, and things that are at rest stay at rest. So take that first step.
I love that. I'm just writing out this quote here. Put one word in front of the other. I think that's really the thing that got me through writing my first book. And really every book or every endeavor that I've done is just waking up every morning and putting a little motion towards it. Like you said, I think that's some of the greatest advice out there. It's usually the simplest things that are the most impactful, right?
and don't let yourself be your don't let yourself defeat yourself, because that's what's going to most likely get you to stop doing something. Is you're going to blame it on other things, but it's always yourself defeating yourself.
Exactly. For the most part, I think that the majority of our suffering is largely self-inflicted, and that's just human being human. I talked about this in my mastermind 2 nights ago to all my guys in there, and I said the problem is that we're not threatened by getting eaten by an animal anymore. So we need to create our own stress in life, in order to kind of balance that out, because we don't hunt anymore. We're not out in the wild or anything like that. So we're worried about these little things like, what's the traffic out there, or the weather, or this or that. But when we can move out of our own way, that's when we start to get everything done for us. Charity, this has been awesome. You were absolutely an inspiration. I'm super excited to have you on here. Did you have a good time?
Great time, Fred. Thank you for having me.
So how can people get in touch with you if they just want advice, inspiration, want to talk to you? How can people reach you?
On Instagram and Facebook, it's the Widow Survival Guide. And on my website is livingonwithcharity.com.
Put these in here real quick. So the Widows, if I can spell, Survival Guide. That's on Instagram and Facebook?
Instagram and Facebook.
Got it. And then tell me your website one more time.
livingonwithcharity.com.
Living on with charity. Good domain. I like that a lot. livingonwithcharity.com. So if you want to get in touch with her, reach her on Facebook, Instagram, or wherever at the Widow Survival Guide, or go to our website, livingonwithcharity.com. Charity, this has been amazing. I'm so blessed to have you here.
Fred.
Thanks so much for stopping by. And on that note, everybody who's hanging out with us, we will see you again very soon. Have a good one, guys.
Congratulations on your new book.
Thank you. See you, Charity. Have a good one.